Well, good morning and welcome to my diary for today. It's Saturday the 4th of April and it's warming up a little bit, I would say. The light's not good though, there's quite a bit of over low cloud at the moment, so yeah, that's one of the first things. Just excuse the light at the moment that may be coming through on my camera. It may be looking a little bit strange, a little bit alien in some respects. I haven't had a chance to really set it up properly. I just wanted to really get this vlog out today. Yeah, this morning I want to talk a little bit about what some people feel in terms of how the virus is being managed by the government, and how it, the virus, although it's admittedly killing people, predominantly older people, the damage is being done by the government on the country in terms of its economy, and it's having the economy as the more critical factor to try and save. The economy being more important than saving lives, and because the economy, if it fails over the next 10-20 years, it's going to kill more people and damage more people's lives than what the virus will do. I mean, this is an argument that you hear coming from certain elements of society, particularly those that like to make a lot of money and have made a lot of money and want to continue making a lot of money in the process of how they work in the world. And I've even got members of the family who think like this, actually, so I'm not going to mention any names, obviously, but this is just something that was sent to me regarding a process, and I'll read it to you. Everyone knows making decisions in hindsight, if that were possible, is the best way of making them. So it's time the government made some, which it now has the benefit, because it now has the benefit of before the economy is going to completely crash. In other words, learn from what Spain and Italy are doing and actually going from that. Now the government has clear evidence that the lockdown is not working. One, it has clearly not worked in Spain and Italy. Two, Sweden, the only developed country without a lockdown, has almost the same infection death rate as Britain. Well, that's it, the jury's still out on whether Sweden is doing the right thing. Three, the vast majority of deaths are serious pre-existing health conditions and over 70, so any lockdown should have applied only to those categories. Well, those are the sheltered. They are getting additional treatment, aren't they? We're sheltering those people in terms of we're all locked down for the purposes of not spreading the virus around, and the over 70s that are more at risk, and those with diseases, we're sheltering further and keeping them behind closed doors to ensure they don't go out at all. The vast majority of deaths are male. Well, I don't know if that's true or not, but I go with it. Despite the hype that the NHS is overwhelmed, Matt Hancock has revealed there are still over 1,800 intensive care beds empty in hospitals, and despite recording 28 deaths and 200 cases, Northampton Kettering General Hospital are easily coping and have 400 empty beds currently. Above that's all the indisputable facts, as this person is making out. Okay, what should we do? End the lockdown immediately and get shops, businesses and factories back to work. Well, that's highly risky, because we'll then start spreading the virus around. Healthy people will start moving between each other and it's going to escalate, isn't it? Maintain the house quarantine of male over 70s and female over 75s and people who are already seriously ill. Well, I think we're doing that anyway, and we should continue to do it. End all self-isolation of people under 70. Well, we'll spread the disease. Get all outdoor sports going again, but half capacity of venues to ensure some distancing. Well, I think when we do eventually get to a situation where people start coming out and we can start opening up things like sports venues, that will have to happen in terms of minimizing the risk. And, you know, there'll have to be things put in place to ensure people do not get too close to each other. And, you know, there are designs being developed now to assist in things like football venues and sports venues, and also in planes and trains, where barriers are going to be sort of put in place to ensure people are protected in their own particular space when they're traveling or when they're going to see an event. Move all coronavirus patients who need to be hospitalized to the field hospitals, even those that do not need intensive care, freeing up hospitals to maintain their normal services. Well, as I understand it, that's what the Nightingale hospitals are going to be doing as they come on stream. They are going to be taking only coronavirus patients, and they are going to then obviously have the capacity to deal with those, and it will free up the hospitals. You know, this is work in progress. Only staff the field hospitals with NHS staff who have the disease, who have had the disease, and are therefore immune, removing need for protective clothing. I don't know. I can't talk about that technically. I'm not sure if that's doable or not. So I'd need an expert to comment on that. Reduce VAT temporarily to 5% to get retail sales going again. This would be a net gain to Her Majesty's Treasury, and currently it is getting nothing, and all shops are closed. Well, yes, but you know, perhaps there will be some form of process of getting things going again when the time comes, but now is not the time to do that. Subsidise all British-based airlines to get flights back to normal. Well, I think that's ridiculous. I mean, where are flights going to fly to? Who's going to want to fly anywhere at this particular moment in time anyway? Do you fancy flying somewhere? I certainly don't. Restore interest rates to pre-crisis levels, which were historically low anyway, to help the pound. Not time. I think that is a process of action that would be taken in the right time frame. Locking down 65 million people to protect 1 million makes little sense. Unless the lockdown ends within the next week, this country and the world will never recover, not from the virus, but from the economic consequences of what we have done to try and prevent the virus. Unless we quickly get back to normal, most people have no idea of the tough economic times to come. Best case scenario, 6 to 8 million unemployed, with everyone else earning half of what they previously earned, with assets and savings depleted substantially. We will be in the start of an irreversible Mad Max scenario in 3 months. The government will be increasingly helpless as systems break down. One thing for sure, if our democracy survives, the next government will be a Labour one. In Britain, we are on the crest of a disaster, not from any virus which could have easily been handled, but for an economic meltdown which will cost millions of lives over the next 20 years. Not the few 100,000 lives that the virus will cost. Yeah. Well, you know, that is a view, and it's a view by quite a few people that I've spoken to, some within family circles and some outside family circles. What do I think? Well, it's not about making money, and people have got to stop thinking like that at this moment in time. It's not about making money, it is about saving lives. You can't put a cost on life, even a 70-year-old or a 75-year-old. I'm sorry, and that's the country I choose to live in. I have no doubt it is going to have a significant impact on our economy the longer this goes on, and it will, as it will across the world. And that is why I keep on making the point about using our brains wisely to consider the options going forward as we gain better control of the virus, as we gain control. But we're never going to get back to the way it was. I think, you know, that's clear. We shouldn't want to. There should not be a need to, but we do have to start a process from scratch. I think to say we're panicking, and those are words of panic, purely looking at it economically, not taking lives into consideration whatsoever. Do we really want to live in a world which discounts people at a certain age as being worthy to save, or discounts people that are ill? No, I would rather live in a society with fewer things around me than be selfishly trying to make as much money as I can. Now, I come from a position of having been managing companies, managing capital, and trying to make money as a businessman, you know, commercially throughout my life. That's what I've been trained to do in many respects, but it's not the route forward. That is not the step forward at this moment in time. Yes, we have to get the economy going at a point going forward, but we need to get it going forward with the right focus on the right things that are important going forward. Sport will be important, of course it will. Theatre will be important. Travel of a kind will be important. Those things are all going to have to, but they're all going to have to adapt to how they put these events, shows, travel arrangements on. They're going to have to look at it differently. How we develop our values in looking after everybody is critical in this matter. I mean, I was very disturbed to hear the way certain things are going on. I was picking up on the Al Jazeera news channel, you know, where people are, wealthy countries like USA and France, I mean, are apprehending each other's stock of masks in places like Shanghai and taking it for themselves. You know, I mean, it's ridiculous things, you know, because they're prepared to pay more to it. So the sender sends it to the other country, so dishonours the order that was placed by one country, gives it to another country because the other country is prepared to pay more for it to get it quickly. These are the sort of things that are happening at the moment. You know, where's the EU at the moment? The EU hasn't shown any real signs of solidarity here. Everyone's on their own, fighting their own battle, in Spain, in Italy. Now, I know Italy and Spain are having a bad situation currently, but and they've had lockdowns. But I mean, based on what that letter said, you know, the lockdowns haven't worked. Well, yeah, I can't arguably say that's the case, because I think, if anything, if those lockdowns hadn't been in place, those deaths that you're seeing in Italy and Spain will probably be 3 times higher than what they are at the moment. Imagine that. So as bad as the situation is, I think we're protecting the situation. We're making things better by taking the action we're taking. And if you speak to the majority of people in the country, and the scientists, they all say the same thing. Some say it should have started sooner. Some say it's right. Some say, whatever the case, that critique can be done at the end. As far as comparing governments, Tory and Labour, I don't think there's any. Labour, if they are in the position they're in, I'd like to think they'll be doing exactly the same thing that the Tories are doing at the moment. I don't think Tory Labour comes into it. You know, I mean, Tories, what they've done in the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, have not been policies that come from the manifesto of the Tory party. I mean, you know, they are spending money to ensure people's lives are going to be as comfortable as they can make them as we go through this crisis. You know, they are digging in deeply into their pockets, borrowing to ensure people can survive. Now, what's important is that continues as we go through this process of change. The process of change is what we've got to get to grips with, of how we're going to find the route forward. But to start off with, and let's be clear, our moral fabric as a society is to look after everybody and protect everybody and not say, well, we'll throw these people under the bus to save these people. We don't do that. Yes, we know doctors have got to make decisions, life, death decisions when they're in hospital, when somebody they've got to let somebody go for the sake of somebody else. That happens. I mean, that happens every Saturday in operating theatres around the country anyway. It always has. And that's something doctors have to make decisions on sometimes. Difficult decisions. But that's not something society should be talking about. We're going to get rid of all our 75-year-olds or 70-year-olds upwards, throw them under the bus, so that we can sort this economy out. It's not about sorting the economy out. It's about winning against the virus at the moment and building the economy on the platforms of where we need to go in the future. Not where we were going in the past, where we are going now in the future. Okay, talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.